Hi Reaper friends, there's an exciting new update with a bunch of really cool changes to regions and markers in Reaper. Today I want to explore those changes with you and also share how I'm using them to keep my projects organized and also very efficient to work with. Alright, let's start by showing you how to make a region. In Reaper you will click and drag to make a timing selection and then hit Shift plus R and that creates a region, and it's this thing that you see right here. But now there's a new way to add regions, and it's by drawing them. And to do this, you will hold Alt and then click and drag anywhere here to quickly create a bunch of regions if you want. I find this much easier to do. So if you want to make a region from here to there, you just simply hold Alt and click and drag to create a region. Now, not only you can insert regions, you can also insert markers. And the way you do this is by clicking where you want them and just pressing M, and it will drop a marker in there. These are super helpful, and later in this video I'll show you how I'm using them. One thing you will notice is that regions now have square edges, and you can change this back to rounded edges by going to Preferences and Ruler Grid. And there's this option that says display regions with square edges. If you uncheck that and hit apply, you can get it back to how it was before, which I kind of prefer. I'm not sure if I like the square edges too much. It makes it a little difficult to see the division. I like the rounded edges, but you can keep it however you want it. So I'll just keep it like that. Also, there's this new option to allow resizing the ruler small enough to hide all the markers and regions. So if you're working with a very tiny screen or something and you want more space, you can totally just completely hide all that link if you have this enabled. Now that you got the basics, I'm gonna show you how I'm using them in my projects. So I love to use regions for song structure stuff. So for example, I have this project right here, and this space right here, that's a verse. So I'm gonna make a region around there, like I show you, make a Shift R. And then to quickly change the name of the region, I like to hold Shift and double click the region. That brings this menu right here, and now you can type the name. In this case, I want this to be the verse, and you can also set a color to it. Let's put this something like this, verse, and click OK. And now that's my verse, and it's just such a nice way to see your whole song structure right away. Now for markers, I like to use markers for things that I want to remember later on. So for example, I want to add a sound effects in here. I'll do that. And by the way, I did the same thing. I just shift double click the marker to quickly change the name of the marker.
Good job.
Now the reason I like to use regions for my song structure is not only because it looks pretty, but it's also so helpful. Look at this. So I want to repeat the chorus one more time. All I need to do is just click and drag while holding Control and clicking and dragging over here, and you will see this little arrow in here. So that means it's gonna duplicate into that next to it. But also, what if I want to move the chorus after the verse? I just click and drag without holding anything, clicking and drag over here, and boom, now the chorus is right next to the verse. And the breakdown, maybe I want it after the intro. It's just so nice to reorganize the structure of your song this way. But one really cool thing they just added is that you can select multiple regions or markers and move them at the same time. So for example, I want to move the intro and the verse. I'm gonna click the intro and I'm gonna click the verse while holding Shift like this. You will see it highlighted, and now you can click and drag this anywhere you want in your project. You will see this little arrow which it's gonna indicate where it's gonna drop. So for example, maybe I want it after the chorus, so I'll just put it in there, boom, and now I have the chorus, intro, verse, breakdown. So good. And just like you can move them, you can also duplicate multiple regions or markers at the same time. So for example, I want the chorus and the intro to repeat one more time. So I'm gonna select both of them and then click and drag while holding Control or Command on Mac. And clicking and dragging over here, you will see the arrow in there. I want it over there. Then there you go. I just duplicated all of this and it's gonna play one more time. And the same thing you can do with markers. You can select multiple markers and just move them all at the same times. This was never possible. It was always a really annoying workaround to do this kind of stuff. So I'm just really glad that you can now do a bunch of these at the same time. So one of the cool things about this update is that now you have multiple lanes in your ruler to have either your regions in there or your markers in there. But this goes way beyond that, because now you can have as many lanes as you want. So now you can right click on your ruler and then go to ruler display, ruler lane manager, and you have all of these new options for your rulers, including adding a new lane. You can set a name to your lanes. For example, this can be your song structure stuff, and the next lane can be used for stuff to fit later. One thing I love is that you can set a color to your lane. So for example, the fits lane, where I have all of my markers, I would like all of those markers to be orange. So I can just set the color in there, click OK, and now all of those markers are orange. Another really crazy thing is that you can set the time base of any of the lanes, and this is super helpful in the case that you have a limit for your song. Like let's say they told you that it cannot be longer than 1 minute. Now it's super easy to do. So in this case, I'll add a lane and I'm gonna call this lane limit. And in this lane, I'm gonna change the time base to time. This means that any of the markers or regions that I put in here are not gonna be affected by the project tempo. So if I change the BPM of the song, it's not gonna shift around. It's always gonna be at the minute mark. So now I can find the minute mark. For example, it's in here. I'm gonna add a marker and I'm gonna place it right at the limit lane that we just created. And since we changed the time base, it shouldn't move no matter what we do to the BPM of the song. So if I change this to 50 BPM, all of the song structure is gonna shift, but this is gonna still be at the minute mark. It's not gonna move at all. Another thing we can change is where the regions or markers are placed when we create them with the quick shortcut that I showed you. For example, if I make a marker right now, it's gonna go to that top lane because the default right now it's for both the regions or markers. So all of them are gonna go to the top lane. But we can make it so the regions go to the top lane and the markers go to the bottom lane. So that way, whenever I create a marker, it's always going to be at the second lane. And if I make another region, it's going to be at the top lane. There's also a few more things in here. You can, for example, show and hide any of the lanes. You can show and hide the regions or the markers or both. You can also just hide the ruler lanes if you want to keep it clean like that. Or you can collapse the lanes when the ruler is too small. If you enable this, when you make this by clicking and dragging this over here and you make it small enough, it's gonna disappear. But if you make it larger, they're gonna show up. It's a good way if you wanna only see it sometimes. A few more things, you can lock the lanes. This way you don't accidentally move any of your regions or markers in that lane. Another reason I love being able to have different lanes is that it makes it so clean to do stuff like this. If you've seen my recording guitar video, you know that I like to divide each section that I want to record my guitars in. So I like to record my guitars in chunks, and I think most importantly is that you can now show and hide any of these lanes, because you don't always want to see all this bunch of regions, all this bunch of markers in your project. Maybe it's something temporary, so you can just hide them and make your project look super clean. This has never been possible, and I'm just so glad that we can now hide all those markers, because my projects were full of markers and regions and it was always so overwhelming to see. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And I want to show you one last thing I think you're gonna love. It's something I use a lot. So whenever I make a region and I go and name it, and let's say I name it intro, you will notice that it gets auto-colored. And this is one of my first things in the SWS extension if you don't have that installed. And this will auto-color depending on the conditions that you set it to. So if you have the SWS extension installed, you should see this menu right here, and then you will go to autocolor icon layout. As you can see, I already have a bunch of things set up, but let's start up with a new one. So you will add rule, click on add rule, and you will see this right here. And in here, you're gonna right click, and you can either set it to a track, you can autocolor a track, you can autocolor a marker, or autocolor a region. Let's do region for now. And then we can double click here to set the name that we want to autocolor. In this case, let's do bridge. And then here for the color, we right click and set the color. In this case, we want the bridge to be maybe blue like this, something like this. And now it should be set up. So let's test this. We're gonna make a region and we're gonna call it bridge. And there you go, it's gonna autocolor blue. And if it's not autocoloring for you, make sure this is enabled and all of these are enabled. You can do the same things with track and even add an icon to it. For example, if I make a track and call it guitars red, it's gonna color it red and put this track icon over there. You can do all of these things in there. Same thing with markers and all those. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.